Shawn tells Nikki that she's a 10 in Seattle and a 7 in New York. And I really want to hear from him. What city does he believe he's a 10 in? But welcome back to That's So Trending. My name is Belle. We're going to hop into Married at First Sight, Season 20, Episode 17. This is the couples retreat episode. And anything that can go wrong will go wrong with these couples. So buckle up. Also, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button, like this video, and turn on your notifications for more. The girls are rallying around to support Tori right now, and I love this. At the beginning of the episode, we see that Tori is still contemplating where her relationship with Felipe is headed, although it should be headed to an annulment. Caitlyn hears that Felipe wanted Tori to defend him at the last couple's dinner, and instantly she says, castrate him. Caitlyn is committed to hating this man, and it makes me chuckle every time she says something about Felipe. She can't stand him. And I do understand Caitlyn's sentiments, because really what he's saying to Tori is, put your feelings to the side. Worry about me. But when she asks you to consider her feelings, you can't understand that. You can't understand that she wants you to remember that she exists in your decision making. And she's asking you to be kind to her feelings even when you're talking about your relationship. You do not have to put yourself and her on blast like this. Very rarely do I agree with Mecca, but I will say I enjoyed seeing him call Felipe out for his bad decision making. Mecca says, I understand where Tori is coming from because your behavior does reflect poorly on Tori. And we weren't thinking about Tori's feelings either when we were playing that game and calling your name for every single one of those questions. I'm sure that did make her feel bad, and all the guys had to admit that they were not thinking about how Tori would feel. And that's the bigger point. The girls upstairs are saying that they just want to be considered, and Mecca's finally dialing back enough to realize we didn't consider them at all. Because you absolutely do get to show up as your full self in a marriage, but you also can't move like you're single. That's not how it works in a relationship. And then Caitlyn goes after Felipe directly, because you know she not playing with Felipe. I told y'all. Caitlyn says you could have been more sensitive with your wife. After all the talking that Tori has done, Felipe has the audacity to ask Caitlyn, what could I have done? What does Tori want me to do? Sir, we done spent half of the last episode telling you what you could have done better. You need to lock in. Caitlyn says she wants you to draw a boundary with these guys and stop accepting them saying whatever to you. And Felipe says, is she really compatible with me if she can't give me a little bit of grace? Sir, she has given you a mountain of grace and you just keep going and keep going. It's like he's poking the bear purposefully to get out of this relationship, but then reeling her back in whenever he gets a chance to. This is where Caitlyn loses it. You're backtracking right now. This is marriage. What marriage is easy? And you can hear her yelling outside where the producers are filming another conversation happening. Because while Caitlyn is cornering Felipe, Devin and Nikki are outside at the fire pit just having a very nice calm chit chat about their relationships and catching up. Devin tells Nikki that when Caitlyn gets defensive like that, she gets very toxic. And Devin's telling Nikki that, you know, he's been trying really hard, but he can only control so much of the situation with Caitlyn. And he really wants her to start leaning in, because why come into Married at First Sight and be guarded like this? And I agree with Devin on this. It doesn't make sense to be here and be guarded from your partner. Nikki says that she's been able to relate because she had to really lean into things with Shawn in their relationship. And that's what's really made it better for them over the last couple weeks. Devin says that ain't my situation. Caitlyn has not leaned in at all. There's no romantic aspect of our relationship. And I think that sums it up. It's like she lives with him like a roommate. Matter of fact, she probably sees him more like the help, because every time I see Devin, he's doing something for her. I never see Devin just enjoying her setting up a date or doing something special for him. It's just him cooking, cleaning, having his friends over and entertaining for her, or setting up a date for her. I don't see Caitlyn doing any work, actually, now that I think about it. But this does lead to an argument, because she feels like these hints should just be common sense to Devin. And when he's up until 2 o'clock in the morning in the shower, she chooses to just take a passive aggressive route, and that leads to bickering overnight. And she could have just walked in the bathroom and said, come to bed. Like, that is all she needed to do, and she made this way harder than it needed to be. And then the next morning we find out about the argument because Caitlyn's talking to Michelle and Cameron, and they overheard that fight and they were laughing about it because she thinks it's funny. And she hears the news about what Mecca had to say about Belle, and she is not pleased at all. Hearing Mecca talk poorly about Belle's body, his attraction to her, what she needs to change about her body, it was just disgusting. And I think all of us kind of felt that way listening to the conversation. Cameron wanted no parts. He got up and left. He said, y'all can talk about what happened, but I'm gone. Meanwhile, the couples all get ready to go on individual dates, and Belle and Mecca choose to do wine tasting on their date, and she's sitting there and she's talking to him about some of the arguments they've had lately, and says that, you know, I think you're self-sabotaging, you know you do that too. And I also think that you see yourself as the bad boy. And Mecca says, more often than not, I am the cause of my relationships ending. And that's why I've been single so long. And this is why I think that they would do really, really well with staying in separate homes initially and handling this more slowly so that he can go see the lady. And they can do couples counseling so they can get on track together, because I actually do see them being a really good couple. He just has some issues from his childhood that he needs to work through simultaneously in order for her to be safe in this marriage as well. Because we don't want to put Belle on the chopping block for Mecca. And the only couple not on the date is Felipe and Tori, which makes perfect sense. We don't even know if they're going to be a couple at the beginning of this conversation. So Tori's upstairs. He comes in long faced, and Tori says, you know what's really hard about this is I consider you even when it's uncomfortable for me. And that's a pin in the conversation. You have to consider your partner. But here comes Felipe's rebuttal that he has been in relationships where they didn't accept the full him, and that's what he was hearing last night. However, if you need clarity, ask for clarification. Jumping to that conclusion does nothing to help move your relationship forward with Tori, because that's not what she was asking you to do. Changing yourself and considering someone are not the same things. Felipe does eventually tell Tori that he likes her, he wants to hold space for her, he wants her to be a part of his life. But sir, you don't act like it. And you certainly don't make her life easier in any way, shape, or form right now. Even on the ride up to this retreat, Tori's car breaks down and all he had to offer was a handhold and a few pats. Nothing in the way of calming her down, and they're on the side of the highway, traffic flying past them, and he had nothing to offer her at all. I would not feel safe with Felipe either, Tori. Finally, though, Felipe and Tori come to some type of resolution where they agree to be each other's safe space. But I want to see how long this lasts, because I don't have high hopes for this relationship lasting, and I don't think it should. Adam and Marissa are on their bike ride date. Adam does speak up passively and say, you know, everybody else went wine tasting today. And Adam says, I'm glad I'm not that boring. Sir, she's asking you to be that boring. She don't want to be on no bike ride on this long bumpy trail with you. This is not romantic. It's giving hot and sweaty and overstimulated. Now, Devin and Caitlyn's date is on this nice little creek area with this nice little short waterfall. And they're sitting and chit-chatting about the miscommunication and argument the night before. Devin says, I cannot allow you to continue to shut me down. It cannot be that you're yelling at me to make your point and I just have to sit down and be quiet. But Caitlyn is still stuck in her head, and you can hear it by how she responds to him by saying, I was giving you the green light clearly. Girl, no you weren't. Nobody saw the green light. I rewatched the footage, did not see the green light, and neither did Devin. And she has the audacity to give nothing, but still be disrespectful to him. And then later on, we see that Devin's still cooking for everyone, still being Mr. Fix-It. He tells the guys about her advances being back rubs, and he even does it to them because it was so passive that he can do it to his friends. How was he supposed to know what that was? And the girls are on her side, of course, saying that he should have picked up the hint. The guys are like, this is your signal. You're supposed to lead. And it's just a joke for the guys. Like, they're just weird. Now, Nikki, Michelle, and Belle are having a private conversation in Nikki's room. And Belle is just going on about some of the issues that she's been having with Mecca. And Michelle steps up and tells her, actually, Mecca said that he wants a woman with bigger boobs. And you could see the shock on Belle's face because I think she's just disappointed with how disrespectful Mecca can be behind her back. And she says, to be honest, I didn't ask for a man that paints his nails either. And that's why I like Belle. I knew the petty was available. She just hadn't activated it yet. But now that we're here, we're locked in, girl. Because I think everybody knows that preference isn't the problem. It's what you do with it. You have to work with the spouse that you have. You can't curate a new one. Belle acknowledges that Mecca is just trying to humble her. And Nikki says, well, since you brought that up, let's talk about what Shawn said to me. Shawn tells me that I am a Seattle 10 and a New York 7. And Michelle and Belle were just shocked by this because who would have the audacity to say that to Nikki? So Michelle said, and what does he think he is? Belle and Nikki already knew the answer. Oh girl, he thinks he's a 10. And the key I would have had behind that, because in what world does Shawn think he's a 10? Because I love confidence, but you cannot turn that confidence into a method to terrorize other people. Even if you were the most attractive person on earth, you do not get the right to tear down other people, especially not the woman that you call your wife. That's weird behavior, it's negging, and it's disrespectful. And honestly, if you like somebody, why would you want to devalue them to make yourself feel better? And then Nikki said in order to get the apology that she felt she deserved, she had to soften up with Shawn and show him the nice version of herself because there's a hurt little boy inside of there somewhere. And while I agree, you can be somebody's soft place to land, that doesn't mean you have to be some type of mattress for them to wipe their feet all over. And Michelle goes into her confessionals and says that these women are dealing with little boys, not men. And she hopes that the women are willing to hold them accountable. And that's when I knew that this dinner was going to go beautifully. Well, beautifully wrong, but very entertaining for me. At the dinner table, things do start off okay. Felipe and Tori give an update that they're doing better. Then Belle and Mecca recount their issues, that Mecca had been a little rude to her. Michelle steps in and says, you need to be really, really grateful to be sitting next to Belle, which is true. So then Nikki gives her update on her relationship with Shawn. But remember, Shawn is in New York right now, so he can't speak for himself. And Nikki says that she's softened, she's leaned in, attraction is starting to grow, and things are much better in their relationship. Belle says, I'm really glad for you, but for me, it's a no when it comes to you and Shawn, because she just heard the negging that he was doing earlier. But then it's funny because doesn't that also mean it's a no for you and Mecca, Belle? Because where is this energy for Shawn coming from when your husband is doing about the same thing? And I love the direction that this conversation is going because it is getting messy and I love mess. So then we've got Nikki who stands up for Shawn, which I do appreciate. Belle does tell Nikki that anybody that feels like they need to humble you is just insecure. And I agree with that. But Devin steps in and he brings in the positive energy and says that he's really glad that Nikki's been able to grow and lean into this with Shawn. But Michelle's starting that fire again. Her and Cameron, they are locked in. They are just messy boots. Michelle says there's a number of people here who know that their person isn't sitting next to them, basically, and that they're just here to make it to decision day when really you want to practice more self-respect, self-value, and leave when you know it's not going to work. You don't have to make it to decision day. And this is where the energy shifts. Nikki ain't having it. That last line of Michelle's speech where she says that people are staying for optics did not sit well with Nikki's spirit. Nikki says it's a wild assumption to assume that people who are staying in their relationships, even though it hasn't been as perfect as her and Cameron's, are here for optics. I agree. Every relationship is different. Felipe even chimes in with that. And you could tell there was some tension in the air because people do not like being accused of being here for the cameras, right? Being called fake, basically. Now, I will be honest, there has always been a question of why Nikki is staying with Shawn, why Tori is staying with Felipe, why does Devin allow Caitlyn to treat him and disregard him in this way? I've always wondered the same, especially for Devin and Caitlyn, where he gets nothing. Now, I do understand with Shawn and Nikki, they progressed, and Tori and Felipe started out on a high note, so maybe they're hoping they can get back to that place. I don't know, but they've all been on different journeys. And throughout all of this chaos, all Marissa is thinking about in her confessional is when these people get together and talk about their relationships, they get a little nutty. And this is why I think Adam likes Marissa. It's not much going on for Marissa sometimes. My girl Marissa is just there for the entertainment that goes on at these dinners. She never speaks. She never does. She is completely checked out. And to lighten the mood, Marissa brings out a game that they're going to play. And I'm like, do we really need more games? Especially if it's like the last one. Do we need that? But this game is actually fun. It's lighthearted. But then I do want to point out that when it comes to Belle and Mecca, the question is, if your match was a mistake, who would you swap with? Belle kept it very cute and classy and said Tori. Totally understand, right? It's not another man. It's no threat to her husband. However, her husband says, I'm choosing Michelle or Caitlyn. And at first, I would have thought it was funny, except for Caitlyn was cracking up way too hard. And I'm like, what's happening? Now, after this game is over, guess who decides to go outside for a little quiet chit chat? It would be Caitlyn and Mecca. So why are y'all sitting like that too? Because did you notice that when Devin and Nikki were talking, they were sitting on different chairs? When Mecca and Caitlyn talk, he's got to sit facing her. He's smiling. I mean, baby, he's showing all 32 teeth in her face. She looks very soft, very leaned into the conversation. I have never seen her look at Devin like that. So why are you looking at Mecca like that? Like he ain't got a whole wife in the house who refuses to see what's happening here. But Adam, who's also a pot stirrer, is of course paying attention and saying that you just gonna let Mecca raise your girl up like that? Oh, he's getting her hot and steamy for you already. Now, him doing that is poking the bear, but I appreciate the mess. Like, they also show Mecca putting his chain on her. And why is he doing that? Because what is happening at this retreat? Then afterwards, we cut to Devin, Caitlyn, Mecca, and Belle having a little conversation in the living room. And Devin screaming. He's like, this is ridiculous. Mecca overstepped and he was feeding into it. Mecca saying nothing because he knows he messed up. And Belle, I heard her in the background say, I'm sorry on his behalf. Girl, you are not his mother. Why are you apologizing? He owes you an apology too. This is so embarrassing, y'all. And yet another slap in the face to Belle. Caitlyn says you're bringing up dumb stuff as if he's stupid and he doesn't know what he saw. So Devin responds, did it happen in my head or is this actually real life? Exactly. This is real life. We all just saw it on camera playing out. Whether she intended to flirt or not, those interactions definitely happened. And I think it's fair that Devin has concerns about those interactions. What really put Devin over the edge was telling him to shut the F up on camera. That is so disrespectful. And really what he needed to say is the way we communicate is the deal breaker here. I just had that conversation with you that we cannot have you communicate with me that way, and you did it again. So Belle actually pulls him back a little bit on the couch so he's not in her face directly like that. And he turns to Belle and he says, she just told me to shut the F up. I think Devin was in shock that she did that. The next morning we head in to check on Caitlyn and Devin. I thought Devin would have left the night before because I know I would have. Devin says that he just can't get through with her. And Caitlyn says she feels the same way she felt last night about everything. Then Devin makes the point that I had just asked you not to speak to me that way. And you did it anyway. Therefore proving his point, and I'm glad they caught it on camera because so many people will make excuses for that type of behavior, but I have zero tolerance as well. So I agree with Devin 100%. That would be my deal breaker and I would be gone. Again, for them, they need that 50-50 discussion that Shawn had with Nikki. Somebody has to win in every argument between Devin and Caitlyn, and it shouldn't be that way. You should just be able to communicate and be heard. But I don't think Paul has been working much with them. And then Devin says something that kind of summarizes why he's finally done, and this argument was his last straw. I know you have things from your past with previous relationships that you're bringing into this relationship, but I just can't deal with that. And Caitlyn is equally done. She says that I feel overanalyzed and nitpicked, and if this was any of my friends dealing with what I've been dealing with from you, I would strangle them. And that's crazy to me that in her mind, she perceives Devin as the bad guy in all of this. I hope that watching this back, she starts to reframe how she views relationships and her actions, because she was dead wrong in a lot of this. Decision day is right around the corner and all of these couples appear to be on the rocks. I don't know if any of them are going to make it. You guys drop down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Also, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and turn on those notifications for more Married at First Sight. I'll see you guys back here soon.